Thank you. Welcome. This is Kobia TJoe, and we are just about to do a review of one of my books, Between Me and My Exploits, and I want to believe you're going to have a great time together. Now, for those of us who've never seen the cover of the book, this is how the book looks like. It's entitled Between Me and My Exploits, Overcoming Self-Imposed Limitations. Of course, remember, all limitations are self-imposed. Now, the book has got 4 parts. The first part of the book is called Road to Personal Discovery. Yes. And in the Road to Personal Discovery, I talked to us about what do others say I am. Of course, it's very important. This is the Road to Personal Discovery. Number 2, we talk about what does the maker say about me? What is my shape? My passion, my drive. Many people tell themselves that their passion is their purpose, but of course that's not the case. Then the other bit, we're asking what's unique about me? What's my unique selling preposition? In part 2, we talk about it's a pleasure. Anytime that you meet someone, and of course this time you're meeting yourself, you always say it's a pleasure. Then the other bit is spending time with me, the lost treasure, where did I lose me? An idea whose time has come, living for others versus living for myself. The noise factor, it's very important for us to understand what is that thing called the noise factor in our minds. Then of course we get ourselves to the space of saying enough is enough. Then in part 3, we talk about the battlefield of the mind. Yes, and here we're asking, how is our mind a battlefield? And part 4, which is the last part of the book, we talk about passing it on. Now, in our today's review, we look at part 2, it's a pleasure. And I open with a quote by Akita Leila, which states, take a journey into the world of impossibilities. You'll be amazed with the adventure. Here we go now. Before anything takes manifest in any form or shape, it first has to be conceived in the mind. The purpose of its existence must be clearly thought out before it is transformed into tangible good or service. The same applies to all humanity. Before any of us are born, the Creator configured and equipped us with full potential of achieving our life purpose. However, it is unfortunate that many of us merely exist and even unceremoniously leave the earth without having discovered their rightful purpose on earth. The first step may be easy, but that is not a guarantee that the rest of the journey is going to be smooth. Most journeys are always coupled with stumbling blocks that remind us to rely on the greater force. One of the best ingredients of a successful completion is a cry. Just as a baby cries when it is born, it is perfectly healthy for us to cry during hardships. This helps us to relieve the pressure and tension when we face difficulties. The journey to personal discovery can be easy and challenging at the same time. It could warrant a cry and prompt one to lose hope in achieving their life goals. Sometimes pain and struggle act as a wake-up call for personal defense. Pain is detestable, but it is often the main entry point to gain. No wonder they tell us no pain, no gain. What have you been struggling with for so long? Jacob of old, too, wrestled with God, yes, in an endeavor for him to overcome his weakness. He fought with God and refused to leave until God blessed him. God gave him a blow in the hollow part of his leg, hurting him. Jacob left the place with God's blessing, though he was limping. In page 43, is there a struggle in your life that has left you limping? We don't like struggling, sorrow and pain Often we forget that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, those believing in him, and those called in accordance to his purpose. Joseph, David, Moses, Isaac, Abraham of old were very close to God, and yet he did not spare them struggle and hardship. God reminds us today that such signs are part of the training to believe in the greatness that resides in the deepest part of our lives. How many times have we made up our minds to take a new course in life only to meet a no road ahead sign and quickly retreat to the space of comfort? Worry is equivalent to a farmer who sows a seed in the ground but keeps unearthing it every single morning and checks on the growth process, forgetting that the seed has to stay buried before it can bring forth. Friends, the command here is to rejoice in the one who rightfully knows our fate and our destiny. Whenever a new person is introduced to us, courtesy demands that we appreciate meeting that person by saying, "It's a great pleasure to meet you." There is always a mixed feeling when you meet someone new. Often, we get excited and anxious. When we decide to meet them, we have to gather up all our courage and purpose to have a very memorable time with them. For those of us who are just joining, this is a review of the book Between Me and My Exploits by Kobia. This reminds me of a journey that I took a while back from Nairobi to Argentina and thereafter to Chile. Deep down my heart, I was excited that I was leaving Africa for South America, but I equally had a fear deep within me. I could only communicate in English, French, and Swahili. However, the main language used in South America is Espanol, or call it Spanish. When I landed at a place called Buenos Aires and later at Santiago, Chile, I wondered how I was to relate with the South American hosts. This was the same fate I had encountered 2 years earlier when I took a trip to Seoul, South Korea. All these trips were moments of reckoning for me. I got to learn a lot about things I did not know about myself. Some of the things I learned included my ability to interact effectively with people of other races, ability to adapt to their culture, weather, diet, and language. Upon touchdown, I had to be ready to meet the other side of me I had never known. It was a pleasure to discover other aspects of me that I had never been in touch with. All human beings are configured to live a life that knows no failure, defeat, surrender. A life full of joy, peace, and happiness. This is a ticket that all of us had when we first landed on the face of the earth. Remember this? Exposure has a way of revealing the hidden you. Have you ever purchased or owned a device or a gadget with so many applications and yet you did not know that some of those applications ever existed? This is very common, especially to individuals with high-tech phones. Anytime a friend tells you about a given application in that phone, we get so excited about it. How many of us have purchased very expensive phones only to use them for calling and texting? This is the fate of so many of us. We are designed for greatness, but only a few of us reach the point of discovering that greatness. Friends, I hereby share with us a few quotes on exposure. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men. I take that again. This is a quote by Helen Keller. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Bill Gates once said this: exposure from a young age to the realities of the world is a super big thing. In the words of Ron White, he says this: but I work hard now because I have so much exposure, and actually, the harder you work as a writer, the better you get at it. It's like anything else, it's a muscle you have to exercise. I write more now than ever. Those who are joining us, this is a review of my first book, Between Me and My Exploits, Overcoming Self-Imposed Limitations to Your Greatness. The other quote in my book is by Brennan Manning: without exposure to potential failure, there is no risk. Constant exposure to danger will breed contempt for them, and thinking is easy, acting is difficult, and to put one's thought into action is the most difficult thing in the world. Taking chance. We never get to know what is good or bad for us until we take the risk of trying. You'd never know whether you liked yogurt or whether you are a good friend or whether you are sociable if you did not try it. You not have known whether you are a great salesman or salesperson until you tried to close your first sale. True or true? In other words, exposure helps bring the best in us. One of the greatest faults is that we do not give ourselves the chance to realize how great we really are. No great athlete ever enjoys intensive training. This is because it demands so much of their time, energy, and sacrifice. However, those who refuse to quit make the sacrifice in order to live the rest of their lives as a champion. In the words of Ovid, let your hook always be cast in the pool where you least expected is your fish. Page 48, we are doing the review of the book Between Me and My Exploits, Overcoming Your Self-Imposed Limitations to Your Greatness. This life is celebrated only by those who are courageous enough to take risks. Our future does not have to be destroyed by the people and the setbacks around us. Instead, we should dare to become who we really want to be. It is not the mountains ahead which need climbing that wear you out, but rather the small pebble in your shoe. We must allow the power of imagination to expose the strengths. The man without imagination has denied himself the wings that are required to fly to their destiny. We all have failed at some point in our lives, but our past failures should be learning opportunities. Deep within are the streak of championships that are yet to be won by you. Whether the standards of the world around us takes cognizance of this fact or not, believe in yourself, present yourself to the battlefield of life, making opportunities. Exposure gives us an opportunity to make the best of our strengths and improve on our weaknesses. Getting exposed may give you a margin of trial and error. It mainly focuses on matching your strengths to your opportunities. Understanding your strengths, talents, and gifts will help you identify those opportunities in order for you to develop them. Opportunities are presented to us, every opportunity presented to us as an expiry date. Knowing what we want in life will enable us to grab those opportunities and run with them in order for us to get where we ought to get to. Do whatever you need to do today instead of postponing it to tomorrow. Your execution needs to be done real time. Have a go-getter attitude. We must live our lives with a great sensitivity to opportunities. These are some few reflections that I've given in the book with regard to opportunities. One is a quote by Thomas Edison who says this: We often miss opportunities because they come dressed in overalls and they look like work. John F. Kennedy once said this: the Chinese use brush strokes to write two words. Number one is crisis. One brush stroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of danger, but recognize the opportunity. Emily Dickerson says this: not knowing when the dawn will come, I open the door. In the words of Paul Coelho, how much I missed simply because I was afraid of missing. Stephen Richards says this: when you do what you fear most, then you can do anything. Friends, the true measure of success is how many times you bounce back from every failure. In conclusion, this is what we say: our destiny must be achieved here and now. We must hit the road while it's still hot. The journey to finding your life purpose should be one of your greatest adventures in life. Every failure counts, every experience counts, every cry counts, and every laughter counts. To achieve excellence, we must become obsessed with excellence. You must therefore surround yourself with excellent people, use excellent words, yes, and of course you're going to get yourself to that space. You can also offer yourself excellent leadership, wear excellent clothes, read excellent books. Friends, don't be limited by perfection. Instead, opt for excellence. Learn to keep growing. Don't be limited by perfection. Go for excellence, because excellence will give you the opportunity to keep learning. Permit yourself to keep growing every single day. Our race must not begin when the storm has calmed, but when the lights turn green. Ladies and gentlemen, exposure is everything. Thank you very much for creating time to join me in today's review of the book, Between Me and My Exploits, Overcoming Your Self-Imposed Limitations to Greatness. Those who would like to order your copies, you can look at the caption attached to this presentation. For those of us who have already gotten the book, I would really love to hear your feedback on what impact it has had in your life. With that, we come to the end of today's presentation. Thank you for all those who created time to join me in the book review. Thank you.